My name is Barb Nikolajczyk. I'm in the College of Medicine, and my research focuses on inflammation in obesity and type 2 diabetes. So my dad had type 2 diabetes, and I think it could be argued that he died from that disease and complications of that disease. So I was certainly aware of the devastation of the disease. I was sort of a hardcore molecular immunologist when I was a postdoc, and I took that into my first faculty position. And at that point in time, it was in the mid-2000s, it was really clear that there was very little known about inflammation in type 2 diabetes, and even simple things like how does somebody with type 2 diabetes respond to a vaccine? How is it that they are less able to kick off a tuberculosis bug than a person without type 2 diabetes? Those kinds of questions really seemed a natural fit with my own personal experience with my dad, and it was a wide open field. There was really no field when I started looking at human subject samples of people with type 2 diabetes. I was at Boston University previously. I was looking for jobs, and I met one of my now colleagues at a conference, and he convinced me to come to Kentucky, which was not really even on my radar, but when I came here, it was really easy to fall in love with the place. The clinical research group here is really extraordinarily strong, so there really was no second choice in terms of looking for places to relocate. Why is it you have all these mouse studies that show that inflammation is important for transitioning the animals from obese and metabolically healthy to obese and insulin resistant? But if you look at clinical trials with anti-inflammatories in type 2 diabetes, they really are relatively disappointing. So what we decided to do is to kind of leverage some of the immunology expertise that I had developed over the years into really redefining inflammation in the disease, trying to start all over again to see whether we could identify checkpoints in that process. And what we actually secured funding for from the NIH in a project that we really were only able to kick off once we came to UK was to do a longitudinal analysis. So you could start with people who are relatively metabolically healthy and follow them as they naturally progress to type 2 diabetes with no clinical intervention whatsoever, and looking at their inflammatory profiles to see if we can identify potential drug targets along that trajectory. Starting at the bedside and going back to the bench, tweaking your concepts, and then moving back to the bedside before just launching into clinical trials, I think it will be more productive, hopefully. If we could sort of increase the hit rate on successive clinical trials, that would be a huge boon to the biomedical research. So my title is Associate Director for Translational Research in Diabetes, which is a big mouthful. They brought me in to kind of help with the translational part, hence the title, because there aren't a lot of people who are sort of in that middle ground. There are actually a lot of great basic scientists, but really kind of bridging that and translating that, it turns out is not just unusual here, it's sort of nationally unusual for people to be in that space. So I felt like this was sort of fertile ground for me to try to, reach people on sort of both sides of that gulf. I'm really interested in partnering with the Y registry, 17,000 participants. And Barnstable Brown is interested in those participants that have diabetes, both type 1 and type 2, also trying to encourage people from the clinic to get into that registry. So I think it's a win-win for Y and Barnstable Brown because it'll just increase the number of participants, not only for research studies, but also for disseminating information on, personal care, community resources available for diabetes, those kinds of things, which Barnstable Brown is really good at already. I feel like every single person here, including you, is sort of on the same team with the same goals. When I have a success in something, I feel like they feel that is their success as well, instead of them just doing their job and going home. I feel like they're really vested in the entire institution, and it really just changes the whole flavor of things. It's a cultural thing.